Welcome back to the movie show. Allie is not here with us anymore. She decided to quit the podcast. So it's just me today. Yeah, she's not her passion just died for this project. So it's just gonna be me from now on. In all seriousness, Allie decided to leave the podcast. She just has a lot going on. She has other projects she has to work on. She lives in Virginia. I live in Florida. So she's gonna make a post about it, but yeah, I'm super passionate about this project and I want to keep doing it. So I hope you guys want to keep watching it. And I could not pass up the opportunity to review Anora. Also, ignore that I went and put on boots because I realized that you could see this part of my leg and I want it to be historically accurate. I hope you can see that I put fucking tinsel in my hair. It's not as cunty as hers. Hers was like purple and it wasn't pinned straight. And this dress, I just want to give her credit for wearing like a bandage dress, first of all, and not having a single roll. But secondly, I feel like I cannot breathe. I could not pass up the opportunity to review Anora. I watched it twice in the movie theater and I have plans to watch it a third time tomorrow, which might be the first time in my entire life that I watch a movie 3 times in the movie theater. And you know what? I don't know what really struck me so deeply about this movie, and maybe that's why I keep going back for more. Before this movie, I said The Substance was my number 1 movie of the year, and Anora is like neck and neck, maybe equal. Like, honestly, 2024 is hitting with movies. Anora was sold out when I went. And I know like some people told me that they went and the theater was like empty, but the fact that an indie like art house movie that isn't a blockbuster can sell at a theater in 2024 makes me super excited about film. And this movie made me super excited about film. I don't know who's watching that's super familiar with Sean Baker. I know a lot of people know The Florida Project and Red Rocket that came out a few years ago. I'm not even sure if that many people know about Red Rocket. Sorry, I'm going to keep looking at my audio recording because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Allie, please come back. Yeah, I loved Red Rocket. Red Rocket came out the same day as Licorice Pizza, which Licorice Pizza is made by Paul Thomas Anderson, which I would say is pretty much my favorite director. He made my favorite movie, Boogie Nights. And I watched them back to back and I liked Red Rocket more, which was crazy because Licorice Pizza was an amazing movie and it was made by my favorite director. And I don't know, there's something to Sean Baker's films that are just so real and just strike you in this unexpected way. I love that he highlights very niche parts of society. A lot of the times it's poorer parts of society or outcast parts of society. Red Rocket is about basically white trash people. The Florida Project is people living in hotels in Orlando. I really think that he chooses very unique niche parts of society to humanize and illuminate and give a new perspective to. And with Anora, I couldn't help but think of Pretty Woman. And if anyone knows Pretty Woman, the original ending was supposed to be that he doesn't end up with her and he's kind of like, of course I'm not going to end up with you. You're a hooker. And I feel like Sean Baker might have watched that and thought, you know what, let's give it the real ending. Because that's like what Anora was giving. I don't know. I think that this movie is so relevant in 2024, especially for young women. And in the same vein as The Substance, I feel like there's a couple of movies that have come out that are super impactful for women. And of course, Anora is a movie that anyone can enjoy. It's very funny, very entertaining. But I think in 2024, for women to watch a movie about how sex work is so glamorized and how you can get sucked in and the real day-to-day of a sex worker, I don't know. I think it's very relevant. The movie starts with a very upbeat, happy song. And honestly, I was kind of like, this song is kind of weird when the movie started. It starts off with you feeling like, this is kind of cool. The strippers are cool. They're having fun. They're in this nice club. They're in New York. She has tinsel in her hair. She looks really comfy. She doesn't give a shit what the men are doing. And her and her friend are going on a smoke break. They're talking shit. And yeah, they're talking about like hey, like this guy was an absolute creep to me or whatever, and you get a taste of that, but you're still like, oh, these women are sort of unaffected by this. And yeah, this is still kind of like empowering and they're making a lot of money. So I don't know if I'm gullible, but I really love when a movie kind of puts you in the position of the main character of feeling a little bit tricked along with them. Even if you have a little bit more sense than the character, I kind of already, sense that something bad can happen to this girl and she's already talking about experiences that she has and maybe she's jaded. But I still felt like, okay, well, she's still getting her bag and she's still getting her money. And I feel like as a woman in 2024, especially a young woman, you're still like wanting to support sex workers and being like, yeah, women empowerment. She can do what she wants. This is her body. But there are definitely pitfalls and there's definitely negative things that I feel like young women, especially 18, 19, 20, should see. I think there's a lot of discourse online lately about OnlyFans and particularly how it is geared towards young women through TikTok, through social media, and seeing the glamorous, like, Karina Kampf or Stella Berry. I mean, I follow those people and I follow some sex workers. And those women are, in their late 20s, early 30s. They have a good head on their shoulders and they know what they're doing. There's a lot of discourse now because we've moved past this all sex work is female empowerment and them going hand in hand, because they're not. Just because you're not going to judge someone for being a sex worker doesn't mean that it should be advertised to young women as the easiest, funnest job that you could have with easy money. Okay, first of all, I just want to get into talking about Mickey Madison and how she blew my fucking socks off in this movie. The only other thing that I've seen her in is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is one of my favorite movies. And her character, I feel like, is supposed to be unbearable. She's like part of that gang with like Austin Butler and my God, Kill Bill's daughter. You know what I'm talking about. They're supposed to be unbearable as fuck, and she completed the assignment. And when she died, I was happy in that movie. So I was neutral about her. This movie looked amazing, and she already had the backing of me loving Sean Baker, but she just took this to another level. She completely, oh my God, I'm having like indigestion. She completely melted into this character. I watched some interviews of her talking about how she had to learn how to twerk. I was like, girl, you literally learned how to go on your head and put your feet up in the air. She just melted into this character completely. I believed it so wholeheartedly. I love the way that Yvonne is introduced in this movie. Her name is Anora. She has this, maybe she has this Russian name, and she's going by Annie. She doesn't want to go by Anora. She wants to separate from her culture, or maybe she wants to separate from the person that she is outside of doing sex work. And she's called to talk to Yvonne in Russian. And even when she talks to him, she's like, I can understand you, but I can't speak back to you in Russian. And I really understood that as a second gen Hispanic girl who's Cuban and Puerto Rican. And I can speak Spanish. I can speak Spanish with my grandparents or my parents when I'm like trying to tell secrets in public. But if I'm going to talk to like a native speaker, I'm going to be very like uncomfortable because I might mess up. And I really related to that, the foot in one culture and the foot in the other. She's this very American New York girl, and she wants to go by Annie. That completely kind of like separates her from her Russian culture. But she still has this familiarity with him that I feel like sucks her in for the journey that we see her in. And, he's like, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 23. And he's like, you seem older, like 25, which is funny because as a 21-year-old, you think 25 is old as hell. And now at 28, I'm still like, even if she was 25, she's so young to have seen and done all the things that she's doing. And yeah, she's only 23, and he calls it out immediately that she has this air of comfortability and maturity, which I think lends to you knowing more about the character and how she's been around the block already, how she already lives this life, this rough New York life. Her parents are in Miami. Her sister barely pays attention to her. She's on her own, and she's grinding it out, and she's trying to make it work. And she meets this kid who, first of all, looks like Timothy Chalamet if he took the opposite of growth hormone. Like, he looks 16 years old. He looks completely harmless. I don't even think that she's thinking, okay, this guy is going to have money. She's thinking, this is like some 21-year-old's birthday and I have to come entertain this kid. So it takes her completely by surprise that this kid is rich as hell. She shows up to his mansion and she's like, what the fuck? And she's like, what do you even do to get all of this? And he's like, sell drugs or sell weapons, which is so funny, especially as a 21-year-old kid. He thinks it's cooler for him to say that he sells drugs or is a fucking weapons dealer than to say that his parents are rich as hell, which they never say exactly why his parents are rich, but she looks him up, and I'm kind of guessing that it's like some kind of mafia thing because everyone that works for them is terrified of them. You know, she has this experience with him. It's super fun. He's super unalarming and he's disarming. They go to have sex and he takes his clothes off and he does a somersault to get onto the bed and you're like dying. And then right after, he's like smoking his little bong and playing like MTV or something. So you know this character, especially if you're in your 20s, you know this guy. He's like the rich kid that smokes weed all day and he's just a fun guy and he's just cool. He throws these parties. He has a cool place. Like, if you grew up in the suburbs, you might have known someone like this. So, you know, he's super disarming for her. And then he offers her an opportunity to spend a week with him for $15,000. For her, this is like an amazing deal. She's already said that she has to deal with guys that are like way older. That's the guys that they show in the club. They have to flirt with these guys that are like ugly, old, creepy. And she goes and has like a good, decent, normal time with a kid that's only 2 years younger than her that has more money than probably anyone else that she's met at the club. So for her, this is like a no-brainer deal, which I even felt in the moment like, okay, like what's the catch? Because that sounds great. She doesn't have to be at the club and she gets to just chill with this guy. And I really loved the entire montage of them just showing the week that they spent together. He has these very normal friends that just like work at a candy shop. So it's not like she's surrounded by these like super rich people that she can't relate to at all. And they're like running around at the beach. They're eating candy. They're smoking weed. Like, it's a good ass time. Like, if this scene was taken out of another movie, you're just thinking this is a feel good coming of age movie. But it's a little bit twisted because when you're coming of age and you're a sex worker and the relationships you have are built on monetization, it's a very, very different coming of age. And mind you, I want to say and preface that this is not nearly the worst thing that can happen to a sex worker. And that's the craziest part of the movie. Like, she makes a bunch of money in this 1 week. She's not in danger. She's not hurt. She doesn't, well, I mean, she does kind of get a little bit hurt. We'll get into that. But, you know, it's nowhere near the worst thing that could happen to her in this movie, which I think was a lot of people's qualms. I was talking to my cousin about it and she's like, I mean, I can't feel too bad for her because she got her fucking bag. And it's like, yeah, she did get her bag. But I think that's what kind of makes it better because it wasn't this super over the top. She got her ass beat. She got raped. She got, you know, smacked around. Like, it's none of that. It's like, okay, she's having a really fun time. She makes $15,000. Now this kid who he's making it seem like he's helping her, you know? It's like, I'm giving you $15,000. Like, this is easy. You get to join my life. You get to join my friends. But at the end, you know, at the end of the week, he's really trying to manipulate her. He doesn't want to go back to Russia. He doesn't want to work. He's literally completely emotionally and maybe intellectually immature. And he doesn't want to go back to Russia. He wants a green card marriage with her. It's weird to see the dynamic that they have because you would think that the sex worker is the one that would be keeping their emotions, you know, in their sleeve, and they would be like, yeah, I'm not in love with you, I'm manipulating you, I'm using you. But the roles are kind of reversed in this movie because you feel like he's tricking her and you see glimmers in her eyes of her actually liking this kid. You know, she's just so used to being around people that are just using her and don't love her and don't like her and are way older than her and can't relate to her. And now she's hanging out with this guy that's like really fun and has money and is cool. And I think there's definitely an element of her wanting to escape her life and wanting to make money. But there's also this element of her falling in love with him. And the fact that Mickey Madison was able to convey that with like the slightest facial expressions and looks and smirks, like, ugh, it's really powerful. And honestly, the guy who plays Avon too, I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry, and there's no way that I would ever be able to pronounce it. He is astounding. Like, he is that character. He is this kid that you like and want to be around, and who's charming and who's cool and has money and you want to have fun with, but you know that it's gonna maybe end in everyone getting arrested or something. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a sense of danger to him with how careless and how free he is. He's a spoiled fucking brat. That's what he is. So yeah, he's part of this family. He's probably part of like this mob family, is what I'm assuming. And correct me if I'm wrong. But his parents hear about this, and it's like in the tabloids that they're like at this basketball game together, and that she's an escort, which that's something else I wanted to mention. Like, one of his friends, she comes to this party and she looks so beautiful, and he's being so nice to her, and he's flirting with her, and he's treating her like she's his girlfriend. And his friend in Russian's like, oh, that's the escort that he's been banging. She's like pretty good, isn't she? And you see that even the people around him don't respect him. And maybe you're thinking, oh, well, maybe he doesn't think of her that way. But that's how he describes her to his friends. Like, I'm banging this escort and she's hot. And I don't know, it just stings. Like, my heart stung for her so many times that she's not really just seen as this girl. And I mean, she's paid to be here. So it's a very, very weird dynamic. So they go to Vegas. I love the Vegas scene also. They get on a PJ, private jet, and then go to Vegas, and they get married in the most like ridiculous clothes. He gets her like a 4-carat ring, which becomes a main character at the fucking end of this movie. And yeah, I love that scene too. I love them getting married. They seem like so young, so fun. You feel like they're both in on this thing. And, they're both being careless as shit. She's being careless because she wants out. She's desperate to get out of her situation. She wants to make more money. This is like the jackpot. This is like the dream for the sex worker, for her to just escape. And she bagged one of the high rollers, But it gets back to the family. Those characters, I'm not going to forget their names. Well, I am forgetting their names, but Toros, Igor, and Garnick. Okay, so Toros, that whole scene with Toros, he's like the priest guy, and I guess he's like the babysitter. Him and his brother Gornick have to be the babysitter for this grown-ass fucking man because he can't keep his shit together. And the whole scene at the baptism where he's like waiting to see if the marriage is actually real or not, and he like sees it and he's like, no! That shit killed me. And he literally leaves the baptism, is embarrassed in front of the entire church. Like, everyone has to bend a knee to this family, to the mom and dad, but also for this kid who is seemingly living this like carefree life, but he's like ruining the life of this guy Toros and Garnick, who are just like in charge of fixing all of his fucking messes. So it's already starting to unravel. Like, this is just like another stunt that this kid is gonna pull. And then the whole scene where she's, he leaves her. Oh my God, that shit pissed me off so fucking bad. That shit pissed me off so bad. He wants to save his own ass. He's like a little boy with a little fucking diaper on who's scared of his parents and doesn't want to get a spanking. He runs out of the house and he leaves her, and he doesn't answer her phone ever again. He literally just leaves her. And in that moment, the first watch, I'm sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, he's going to come back, or maybe, he's going to apologize or whatever. But that's not what's going to happen, as you know. Okay, this was like a sick and twisted, like if you've seen like American Graffiti, or like, it's not like a survive the night kind of movie, but where you're with the characters through an entire night, like chronologically, it's not skipping time. I love that shit. And the second half of the movie is just her with the parents' goons trying to get her to annul this marriage and telling her, you're going to annul this marriage. Like, there's nothing you can do or we're going to ruin your fucking life, basically. So she's still being delusional at the beginning. First of all, she was fighting them so hard and she's kicking and screaming. And although it was so funny, I also was like very uncomfortable because you're like, oh my God, like I don't know what these guys are about. And you have this young girl by herself now with three goons. Not a good situation, which honestly made it funny because then you have this Igor character who he's kind of like an outsider. They like kind of just called him in and they're like, yeah, we need an extra guy and you're going to help us. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. It just comes across badly because he has to like complete his mission or he thinks he's going to like fucking get killed or something. So he's like, I cannot let you leave the house. And they're just like begging her to cooperate. It's so funny because you have like these three like, they're not criminals. They're towing the line of being criminals, but it's like they're not there by their own volition and they're kind of in the same boat with you, girl. Like Toros is sitting there thinking that he says like he's going to get killed and his family's never going to talk to him again. Like both things are going to happen. Like he's going to die, but also like his family's going to disown him if he fucks this up. So like they're under extreme pressure to make her get this marriage annulled. So I love the entire just following them throughout the night and they're looking for this kid. They're in the cold. She's like freezing her ass off. They're like walking from place to place throughout New York and this kid doesn't give a fuck. They're like, there's like trails of him just at different clubs, just being drunk as hell, which is like the weirdest thing that you could be doing when you think that your marriage is going to be annulled and that your parents are about to come get you, is to just go get fucked up. It's like very clear that this kid, like it starts to be more and more clear that he's just like does not give a shit. And I guess it depends on how gullible you are. I think maybe I'm like a tiny bit gullible, or I just like kind of surrender to a movie, but like I was still like rooting for Anora. I'm like, okay, maybe they're gonna find him and he's gonna fight for her. Maybe they're like, I didn't know where exactly the movie was gonna go, and maybe sometimes the expected kind of diverts your expectations a little bit because you think, oh, maybe something just crazy is gonna happen at the end, and it's like, no, I mean, it is gonna be crazy how it happens, but yeah, she's not going to end up with him. They're going to get the marriage annulled, and he did not give a shit about her. You know what I mean? Like, you're holding out a little bit of hope because you love this character, but it's like the expected thing is going to happen. The realistic, real world thing is going to happen. This is not Pretty Woman. This is not Julia Roberts. This is Mickey Madison, motherfucker. You know, everything that they say is going to happen is going to happen. They line it up. They're like, we're going to find him. We're going to get this annulled. It's going to happen. It's so funny. They get to the whole court scene in New York, and then they realize that they got married in Vegas, and they have to fly. Like all of it, I just love it. It was just absolute chaos. It gives the vibe of Uncut Gems, like Safdie brothers film. Everyone is yelling, everyone's talking over each other. It's complete chaos, and it's just like it made the movie go by so fast. Like I can watch it 5 times, you know? The most painful part of the movie for me is when she has to get on the private jet and she's like, talk to me, be a fucking man. And he's just like, are you fucking stupid? Yeah, we're going to get divorced. Like, we were not going to be together. And it's so painful. I don't know. I think a lot of women have been tricked. Even if you've just been like love bombed and then someone is just like completely cold to you. I think a lot of women know that feeling, and it just sucked. It stung so badly. But I think the most unexpected ending was she's with this Igor guy, and he honestly was incredible too. He just showed so many little glimmers of caring about her or rooting for her or feeling bad for her. He was the only one that had sympathy for her because he's like the outsider. He's not working directly for this family, and, you know, he's just this guy. He's like for hire for the day. You know what I mean? So he had more sympathy and empathy for her because he wasn't as scared as Garnick and Toros. And you see that. You're like, am I rooting for this guy? And then, you know, they offer her basically $10,000 and they're like, you're never talking to us again. It's a payoff fee. Bye. And he pulls out that ring, dude. He pulls out that ring and he's like, I stole this ring for you, which is fucking crazy. He stole, like, who knows, if it's a 4 carat, 5 carat ring, it could be like up to $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. So he steals this ring for her, and it's like she's stunned. He walks to her door. He's like taking her suitcase. He walked back, and she's still sitting there. And that scene in the car is just like I think I'm addicted to it. I think that's why I want to watch the movie again, because it kind of explains everything she's feeling and the complex emotions that she has with relationships in general. He hands her this ring and it's like he cares about her, he feels bad for her, he's sympathetic for her. But she sees this ring and it's like this is worth so much money. And she immediately tries to have sex with him, which it's again, you're like, okay, I kind of want that to happen, like I want them to be together, but also it was like immediately transactional, and he's trying to pull her face towards him to make out with her, like he likes her, he genuinely likes her, but she is so confused by relationships and is this transactional, did you give me this ring because you wanted to have sex with me or not? She just starts hitting him and crying and just has a breakdown, and he holds her and you kind of feel like he does like her, and she's really broken, and she's really broken by this experience. Even though a lot of worse things could have happened, it was a rejection, and she was called an escort and she was treated like trash, and she was discarded very easily by someone that she was maybe convinced that she could love, even if she didn't love already. I could just cry thinking about this movie. I think it's an astounding movie. I think it's amazing. I think, you know, even though I think Sean Baker has covered topics or people situations that may be worse, like a kid that has to grow up in a hotel by themselves, or, someone that's living on the streets. This just felt very real and very relevant in a way that didn't feel super on the nose or too current. It didn't feel like it was Euphoria, where it was overly sexual and, almost feels like you're objectifying the main character by trying to tell their story. I think that this movie really, 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 really humanized sex workers in a way that is accessible for a lot of people and is relatable. Just the story is maybe relatable to a lot of people that have maybe fallen in love with the wrong person or trusted a man too quickly. Yeah, I think this movie is really relatable for women and for anyone in general. I hope that men watch this and maybe they'll feel a little bit more icky about going to a strip club, or maybe they'll just like treat the women like they're actually women. Who knows? Yeah, that's it, I guess. Yeah, it's just gonna be me, at least for now, on the podcast. Maybe I might film with some other people or might get another co-host, who knows. But I hope you guys keep watching. I absolutely love doing this, and I hope you guys watch this movie once or twice or three times in the movie theater. Bye. Love ya.